North Korea's claim to have captured images of U.S. military bases in Guam using its newly launched spy satellite. Let's discuss the implications with Mason Richey. He's Associate Professor of International Politics at the Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Richey, talk to me about what the likely technical capabilities are of this Malayong-1 and exactly what North Korea plans to do with it.
Well, at least in the public domain, we don't have a great deal of information, but it does seem, based on the small bits of images that North Korea has shown us before, that this is in the first place likely a relatively small, probably solar-powered or possibly solar-powered optical satellite. That means it's going to be looking at visible light rather than, for instance, spectral imagery. It will probably not have a great resolution given the size of the satellite. Until they develop larger rockets, they'll have to content themselves more than likely with resolutions that one would think are probably somewhere in the 3 or 5 or 10 meter range, which is relatively low resolution compared to what you can get from top-end commercial satellite imagery, which can be substantially lower, less than even a half a meter, and certainly less than what you would find from top-end military-grade satellites from countries like the United States, which can get down less than 10 centimeters of resolution. The other thing that we don't know very much about is, for instance, the orbit that it's in, and that will make a difference in terms of how capable it is, nor how the camera can swing back and forth, so what the width of the imagery is that it can take. And of course, we don't know very much, if anything at all, about the downlink speeds, and how rapidly and how frequently the base stations in North Korea that are run by the military will have access to the data that the satellite would presumably be able to gather. That being said, it's certainly better than having no satellite at all, and it will allow North Korea, in principle, to follow troop movements on the Korean Peninsula by the U.S. And by South Korea, as well as observation and reconnaissance on various military installations and other important areas of interest for the North Korean military.
So in a sense, it will give them some eyes in the sky, Professor Richey, but there is speculation as to who might have helped them sort of put all this together. Speculation perhaps that the Kremlin may have given some assistance. Is that likely?
So this is a bit of a difficult question to answer, a little bit like your first one. This is their third go at this, and this time it was successful. However, given the lapse in time between the second launch and this launch, which was just around 2 months, I don't think that that's enough time for Russia to have provided equipment. I don't think it was possible for Russia to really, give much in the way of actual technological assistance materially. It would not surprise me at all that they gave advice. Some of the engines that were presumably used, these are probably, RD-250 type engines. Russians have a lot of experience with, and so perhaps they helped notably with the second stage, which was the failure point in the last launch. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was advice that happened here. On the material side of things, I don't think that we're there yet, and I don't think that we're necessarily going to be there with the satellite itself, which presumably, again, also comes at least in part, from North Korea, although perhaps in the past they've had help from other countries, including Russia. So I think to some degree, the bigger worry might be going forward with respect to the Kremlin is, what advice they're going to be giving and what type of material support they will be giving to North Korea going forward, as North Korea has promised to put more of these satellites in orbit in the future.
Professor Richey, a quick final question for you. Where does all of this leave military tensions on the Korean Peninsula? Where are they likely to head from here?
Very briefly, North Korea, if it gets the satellite imagery, will have better targeting data. And that, in some sense, is a risk, of course. On the other hand, it might help tamp down misunderstanding and miscalculation by North Korea. In the short run, the real worry is in part the fact that South Korea has abrogated the comprehensive military agreement that helped diffuse tensions along the demilitarized zone. If South Korea wants to reinforce that by perhaps operating in the buffer zone that it previously was not operating in with, for instance, aerial reconnaissance, how would North Korea respond to that? And might that set off some type of escalation spiral? One hopes not, but we can't exclude it.
Professor Richey, thank you very much for your analysis there. Professor Mason Richey speaking to us from Seoul.